Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Pamela Brewer, welcoming you to this edition of M.E.S.H. M.E.S.H is where we talk about your mental, emotional, and social health all the time. Today, we're going to be talking to someone who is an excellent example of why you often hear me say, don't try to be a mind reader. It's not your job and it's not your skill set, and don't expect others to read your mind. I'm going to introduce you to today's guest, and you're going to figure out in about 30 seconds why the idea of not being a mind reader and not accepting that as a job is really so important in all relationships, but really in this relationship. With that being said, I would like to welcome Dr. Ann Turner to M.E.S.H. Dr. Turner is a certified sex therapist. She's a divorce coach, so you do a lot of work with couples all the time. Dr. Turner, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. It's so great to be with you again.
Well, Dr. Turner, we're going to be talking about something today that I did not have a whole lot of awareness of. And when you told me this was one of the things you do, I thought, well, this is a 20-minute conversation. I think I need like a 20-week conversation. And what am I talking about? Living apart together. What exactly is living apart together? Is that a thing? Is it a new thing? What is that?
Yeah. So there's 3 conditions that have to be met for living apart together. 1 is that you're in a committed relationship. 2 is that other people know that you're in a committed relationship, so it's public. And then 3, you live separately in separate dwellings.
Now, is that the same thing as a long distance relationship, or is that, I mean, there was, when people would say one person is moving, so they're a couple, but, one person's in California, one person's in New York, that's long enough distance. Is that what we're talking about with living together separately?
Yeah, I would say that fits within the definition. And you're right that that's sort of old school of like, and not that doesn't still exist, because it does, thanks to technology. And then, I also wonder how much of it is COVID related or just people realizing that there's more than one choice to how we live as a couple.
And from your perspective, is this a healthy option?
Yeah, I mean, who am I to say, like, if it works, I'm a big believer, if it works for you as the client, then it works. Like, that's great. That's what really matters. It doesn't technically matter what I think about your relationship. If you guys are able to work out some sort of agreement and you're okay with the terms of the agreement, whether you get together once a week, once a month, twice a week, or you live across town. I mean, there's so many different flexible ways to do this.
So it's not just a matter of living in a different state or in a different coast. You could live next door if you wanted to.
You could. I know of people who live next door in the same building. I also know of people who, actually, I was just at a retreat and I met this couple and we happened to be talking about this topic. And the gentleman was about to leave for a month in the woods. And so they're having intermittently living apart, together relationship. And then the wife mentioned, she said, and a couple of years ago, I lived in Seattle in an apartment and my husband stayed in our suburban home. So it's something that you can intermittently do. It's not like it's one or the other.
Okay, interesting. What are some of the reasons that people choose to live together apart?
Yeah. Well, I find that for blended families, it can be very helpful. And I know of someone who had young children and their partner had young children, and they didn't want to uproot the children to have to change schools. And they liked their space, their literal space, their figurative space. And the kids could stay in their own home because they were both divorced. And they were able to get together, say, actually, I think it was every other weekend. And then, they kind of could do the best of all worlds. They could be good parents, good partners, and also they each had different hobbies that the other one wasn't involved in, and they liked that.
So it sounds like it actually could be a really healthy, valuable, viable option to remaining a couple. I know you said that you thought that maybe COVID had something to do with this, but who really sort of pushed this type of relationship along, would you say? Is it male driven? Is it female driven? Or is it a sign of the times and really couple driven?
Well, I have read that a lot of women are pushing it, and I honestly don't have the statistics on it because I don't think that many people have studied it. I don't know if anyone has actually studied how many people are doing it and what the demographics are. But if you also think about, if you look back on, like, if you're a parent, if you have young children, this is probably not as appealing because you need more adults. If you've ever been a single parent, you'd rather have another person helping you raise those small children. And so it's more appealing to, I would say, older couples. And I also think women, I mean, just to make a broad generalization, women tend to be fairly independent. Like when men and women get divorced, women take longer to remarry because they're able to usually make those social connections and build their life. So they're less likely to want to couple up and have to be under the same roof. That's, again, just my observation on male female gender differences.
Gotcha. And certainly I think many of us have heard that women, as you've just said, men don't do so well with divorce, and women do a lot better with divorce. And certainly I think there are different cultures where, women kind of run the show. It's okay for everybody involved. So not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
In terms of gray divorce, well, first I'm going to ask you to explain to the audience what gray divorce is.
Well, gray divorce is just getting divorced at a later stage in life. And it's usually after the kids have left the house. There's different times when divorce is likely to happen. And one of them is when the kids leave the house and you look at your partner and you say, do I really want to spend the rest of my life with this person?
So is living together apart? I think about couples, they've been together forever. They don't want to live together. They don't want to be in a committed relationship together, but for whatever reason, financial, social, who knows, they don't actually want to get a divorce. Is this an option?
Well, the one piece that you said that doesn't align is if they don't want a committed relationship, because technically this would require commitment. But to be fair and open to other people, if someone, if a couple was okay in polyamory, if I'm okay with my partner being with other people, if that works for them, that is a possibility. And we live separately and we have agreements, which is what makes polyamory work, is when we know what's okay with each other. So it could, although it wouldn't technically meet the criteria. Yeah.
Gotcha. You've used a term that I'm not sure everyone in the audience is aware of, polyamory. What is that?
So polyamory is when you're in a relationship with more than one person.
And from your experience, because people have all sorts of views about what is and what isn't a relationship. And what you're saying, and certainly makes a great deal of sense, if it works for the couple or the triple, or is it ever, I'm aware of 3, but I'm not aware of it being more than 3.
Yeah, well, that's called a polycule when it starts getting bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, a throuple is another expression for when there's 3.
Okay.
And again, it can be any gender. It's not always assumed that, like, if I'm with 2 men, it could be I'm with a woman and a man, and that can be very flexible.
And so it almost sounds like it could be essentially a commune.
Yes.
Our old sense of what a commune was.
That's right. Like that show, The Big Love. I don't know if you saw that, about Mormonism, and yeah.
So back to the concept of living together apart. What are some of the things that people really need to consider if this is something that they want to do? I know there are people listening now who are thinking, I really like this person, but I don't want to live with him or her or them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm really cut out for this. I need to have somebody living in my house with me at all times. What's the mindset or the framework, if you will, for the person and the couple for which this would work?
Well, first of all, it'd be very helpful if the people involved have what's called like secure attachment. So attachment is determined usually by our caregivers when we're little. and younger. And so if you're insecurely attached, or we call it anxious attachment, this probably wouldn't be a good fit because it's someone who kind of wonders, does the person really love me? Are they going to cheat on me? That type of person, it wouldn't be as appropriate to do. I don't think it'd be harder for them. And then, so you'd want to be securely attached. What else? Oh, you'd also want to have really clear communication. How often are we going to talk to each other? How often will we see each other? If you're having sex, how often do we have sex? And so it's really just having that conversation and being in agreement on how that would work. And then to piggyback on that, one thing you could do is test it out. Like that couple I mentioned at the retreat, where the husband's going to live for a month away, see what it's, and the great thing about like Airbnb nowadays, people and COVID kind of taught us, you can live somewhere else for a month. And usually a lot of people can work remotely and test, see what you think, or a week. It doesn't have to be a month. It could be a day. It could be, like there's different ways you could test this out.
When there is an older couple, older, I don't know, you pick the age, or maybe we don't pick the age.
Yeah, 70s,
but
yeah.
They're recently single for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they don't want to technically marry for whatever reason. If the commitment is that they're living together apart, does there need to be a marriage certificate legally? Is this considered a marriage?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know legally. And I do know that back at COVID, a lot of people were getting married because they were worried. Remember, if you had a sick relative and you wanted to visit them, they only let like legally married people, I think things changed by the end. But my understanding is I don't think it's a legal marriage, but I don't know. And that's not my bailiwick.
I may have to have somebody coming in here to talk to us about what's legal in relationships and what's not.
That's right.
It certainly seems to be a shifting landscape these days.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this couple I've created. They're an elderly couple. They are newly single for whatever reason, reasonably newly single. They want to be in a relationship. One wants to get married and live with the person, or not get married and live with the person. The other one is saying, I'm not giving up my benefits. Yeah. I'm not giving up my space. I love you dearly, but I really want you to go home.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Oh, yeah. No, it can work. And I actually think that's really the demographic that this is particularly popular with. Gotcha. For the reasons you just mentioned. You don't want to lose your benefits. You've lived your life a certain number of years. Maybe you've been a widow or widower, and you like your apartment. You like how it's arranged. Maybe your new love interest is a mess and you don't want to live with them. Or like you said, you lose benefits or something, or your kids don't like your partner. I don't know. But this would be a way to be in a committed relationship and you don't have to share space with each other.
And when you say your partner may be a mess, you're referring to literally, physically a slob. And you can't.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, I meant messy, right? Yeah, because sometimes it's messiness. Sometimes it's, I've heard of people like they say, my partner has a cat and I don't want to live with a cat full time. I like my partner. I'm going to stay where I am. They don't want to compromise.
What about those folks who would say, this is an example of someone who has poor intimacy skills or poor commitment skills?
Yeah.
What about that as a concept? Does that ring true in this kind of a relationship?
I think that's in a way a judgment on someone of like, if someone wants to live separately, why does it bother you? I mean, it's sort of like, you can say whatever you want about how someone else is living. On the other hand, it's their life. And if it works for them, then I think it's kind of none of your business.
Then it works for them. So for the folks who are listening to us right now, in the time that we have left, I'm wondering if you could share some thoughts about or some tips about what a person should think about if they are considering living together apart.
I think they should think about what agreements on how often they're going to communicate, how they're going to communicate. Some people are better at text. Some rather have phone calls every night. Are they going to see each other every weekend? And the other thing I did want to add before we end is that you don't have to do a live apart together relationship to have some space in your relationship. Because I do find people are wanting that post-COVID. Because people have moved back home and they're working from home and out of their kitchens and they're home all the time. And so you can create a little more space in your relationship without necessarily having separate dwellings. And it could be something as, actually I was at the same retreat. Someone had a studio for their art and it was separate than the partner's studio and it was on the same property. What else? You could also sleep in different bedrooms and still have sex. People sometimes think, oh no, if we stop sleeping together, we're never going to have sex. But you can have some space, literal space in your home, especially once kids are gone and now you have children's bedrooms free.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So really what this concept does is it opens up the idea of being connected in so many ways. And certainly I know you and I know people who will believe I'm never going to have a partner. But what they think about when they think about partner is this person who's living with them, married to them.
That's
and
right.
That's a whole other conversation. What are some first steps? You've just talked about what folks need to consider. What are perhaps some first steps to moving forward with getting information about this kind of a guidance? Do you, as an individual or couple, do you need to work with a clinician who's skilled with these kinds of concepts, or can you just sort of do it on your own, or is there a book you can read?
Yes, that's a good question. One, you can try it on your own. Two, there's always resources like myself who could be happy to help you walk through how to do that. There is a book, and I have it right here, called Latitude by Vicki Larson. And she's a lovely woman. And the title is Latitude, How You Can Make a Live Apart Together Relationship Work. So that's just something to think about.
That's a great resource. Thank you.
Yeah.
And how do people get in touch with you if they would like to? Is there a website or is an email address?
My website is annturner.com and my email is drannturnertherapist@gmail.com. And then Instagram is @drannturner. And there's
if you would, I was going to say, if you would spell Ann and Turner.
Yes, ANNTURNER.
Okay. One quick question, and I'm not going to give you enough time to answer it thoroughly, I know, but in the situation where there's stepchildren involved and one parent has a completely different view of how to parent the stepchild.
Yeah.
Is this a way to stay connected and sort of back away from those kinds of challenges?
Yes, it would be it's very helpful because it allows that container. It's actually a physical container instead of always interacting and having that rub in the relationship. And also it's helpful for people. I've had people with neurodivergent stepchildren who have a harder time with change and changes in their circumstance. So then they decided, I don't want to uproot new school, new neighborhood, new everything when this child is already sort of challenged enough and doesn't want to add to that.
That's a great, I think, additional way to think about options in terms of relationships. Dr. Ann Turner, it's been so delightful to see you. Again, it's been way too long. Hopefully we will meet again soon. And I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, to you, thank you for joining us today on this edition of M.E.S.H, where every week, every Wednesday, you're going to have access to a new conversation that is going to address the mental, emotional, and social health aspects of your life. If this has been a conversation that you have found useful, I'm hoping that you'll share it with someone you care about. You take care. See you next week.